Bowlers Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Fair Lanes. Check out the fun and excitement of league bowling at Fair Lanes. By Lucite. For a tough, resilient finish, paint with Lucite. The thick skin that won't give in. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. And now let's meet tonight's top 5 finalists. Qualifying 5th this week is 29-year-old Cheryl Daniels, who captured her first career championship earlier this spring. Starting from the number 4 position is former U.S. Open champion Carol Norman of Ardmore, Oklahoma. 3-time All-American Sharon Owen-Todd, a recent graduate from Morehead State University, nailed down the number 3 position this week, while 13-time titleist and WIBC Hall of Famer Lorrie Nichols will bowl out of the runner-up position. And, of course, seeking her 7th career victory and her 2nd title in 1989, it's 21-year-old Leanne Barrette of Oklahoma City, who averaged nearly .218 for 42 games this week. And welcome, everyone, to beautiful Fair Lanes Highlands Ranch in Littleton, Colorado for the championship round finals of the Fair Lanes Denver Classic. Hi, everyone. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to the Mile High City, where for the 3rd consecutive week, an amateur player has cracked the top 5 here on the LPBT Tour. And working with me once again this week is Leila Wagner, who finished a solid 12th here in Denver this week. But, Leila, are you surprised at the fact that we've had an amateur on the telecast 3 weeks in a row?
You know, Denny, I don't think I can be surprised. There are so many good amateur players out there coming up through the collegiate ranks that are really taking a look at the women's tour. We have a lot more events, and we're bowling for a lot more money. So it doesn't surprise me that they're out here making the television shows.
Excellent lane surface here this week in Denver, Colorado. The scores in the medium range. It was a very competitive tournament from start to finish.
Well, it was, and the scores were good. We were on a basic long oil condition. However, the back ends moved real well, so we had some good carry. And also, they broke down like they used to, and we were able to make just simple adjustments. Made it easier to strike.
All right, now let's look at the top of the ladder once again this week. Leanne Barrette leads for the 2nd time in her career. Now, the top seeds have won just 3 of 11 matches. What's going through her mind right now?
Well, Leanne was only the top seed in one other tournament, and that was the Queen's Tournament last year. She said she feels really confident, though, this week. She just wanted to come in, make the next 2 shows, which she already has this week. And she says, you know, I'm just going to go out there. The worst I can do is finish 2nd.
A great all-star cast. Just think of this. Lisa Wagner, the defending champion, was 6th, and Robin Romeo was 7th. So the survivors are a very talented crew. Opening match coming up next, Cheryl Daniels and Carol Norman, the LPBT on ESPN.
At Lucite, we go to great lengths to test our tough, resilient paints, ensuring that our unique...
Colorado championship round finals of the Fair Lanes Denver Classic. Carol Norman will open up on the left-hand lane, championship round pair, lanes 13 and 14 here this week.
Well, this is Carol's 2nd appearance this year, Denny, and she lost her game last time, so she's looking to better that finish.
Well, this one rolls up and through the nose, and she leaves the baby split.
The lanes were really changing quite a bit here in the practice session. We noticed that the lane conditioner carried down the lanes pretty quickly, and the players were making some pretty quick adjustments, and I think it's just taking them a little bit longer here. The first couple games, we may not see such high scores as I think we'll see towards the later part of the show.
Doesn't move very far to the left. This one goes right through the 3-pin. So an open frame in frame number 1 for Carol Norman. That's not the way you want to open up the championship round.
No, it isn't, especially against Cheryl Daniels now. We saw her win just a few weeks ago, and I think she's on a mental high. She's been bowling very well. She finished 8th last week in the Queens. She finished 25th in the U.S. Open, and she's just had a real good swing here.
Opening shot, a pretty good one, leaves the half 10.
Spares were relatively easy to pick up this week. Cheryl is switching to a harder surface bowling ball, and she'll try to go real straight at this 10-pin.
And just barely flicks it out of the way. With the longer oil pattern this week, Leila, is it easier to make the spares in that situation?
Well, it is. However, the back ends were moving a little earlier in the day, and that's why you can see here where Cheryl almost missed it off to the left. She gives a little roll of the eyes until the oil actually carries down a little farther. Spares can be a little tricky.
A little straighter on the left-hand lane. That one right through the nose, and up pops the split for Cheryl Daniels in the second.
You really couldn't go up and at him almost pointing the ball. You had to send the ball either down the boards or to the right and actually let the back end of the lane bring the ball into the pocket.
If you're Carol Norman, you're thinking, well, I got a big break there. I opened up in the first, but now she has a possible open in the second. Cheryl going to give it a run. She takes out the 7, but forgets the 4. So Cheryl Daniels with an open in the second, and this one's going to tighten up considerably.
A real good break there for Carol after opening the match with an open. Getting that ball quite a bit farther out to the right there. Trying to make the adjustment off of lane 13 where the ball hooked up to the nose. She tried to give it a little bit more room and didn't quite make it back. Now Carol has a 5-step approach. She carries the ball through her first step, then moves it in her second step. Look at her cupped wrist, good knee bend, real good follow through. She really likes to play a little more straight up. She's not a big swinger or a player that likes to cross a lot of boards.
And a wry smile there as she picks up the spare.
Carol started bowling at the age of 10. She threw her first 300 game at the age of 14, and she thought that time she'd like to turn pro someday.
Well, was through the nose the first time around. She made the adjustment, and oh, what a big break. Maybe end up with a strike before it's all said and done. She got away with murder, that trick.
I have to tell you, I actually threw this exact same shot in the finals last night. Almost left the big 4. The 10 topples the 6. The 6 rolls over. Look at this, touch the 4. And the 4 falls right in front of the 7.
Take advantage of the big break when you get it, so she spares the 7. And Carol realizing she was fortunate there. And she leads by 3 pins in the early stages here in match number 1.
Well, Cheryl actually won her title coming up from the first game in that number 4 position earlier this year.
A little better speed on this shot and gets the pins to explode a little bit, so a strike on the right-hand lane.
Speed was really crucial here, Denny. You really had to keep your ball speed up. You can see the results here. A lot of drive in the back end, the 5 going against the 7, the 6-pin doing its job and taking out that 10.
And the first opportunity for a double in this match right here. Another good speed shot, and she was hoping to take out the 10, but 6-pin didn't get it done.
A real good adjustment there on lane 13 as we saw her go through the nose last time. The next shot to be a flat 10, ball not quite driving hard enough, but that's the kind of adjustment you really have to make. Give it the room.
And cross lane for the 10. So Cheryl Daniels with a spare. And this is what the ladies are shooting at this week here in Denver. And while we were away in the 4th, a 2-pin leave and a spare there for Carol Norman. And there you see leads by just 2. That one hooks medium range again, right through the nose. And what is she going to have to do, Leila? She's just punishing the head pin on the left-hand lane. 3
identical shots, really, Denny, there on lane 13. All 3 of them hooking a little early for Carol. And she's contemplating exactly what she has to do. She felt like she threw a pretty good shot, had her speed up, and the ball really did hook early on her. So she needs to definitely make some type of adjustment. Here we get to see exactly where she is playing, right about the 6th board there at the arrows.
Boy, from our vantage point, too, you could see at about 35 feet that ball was going high. So she's got a dilemma right now, the left lane hooking a little more than the right. Meanwhile, Cheryl Daniels going to try and take advantage of the open, going a little more direct, and she's in between. It's not a flush strike, but at least she's got the X.
Very powerful shot there by Cheryl Daniels. Just can open a can opener there, just split the pins.
It seems like Cheryl's almost in between. On the last shot of left-hand lane, she left the half 10. Let's see how the ball reacts this trip.
Different games, Denny. You've got Cheryl swinging the ball out a little bit, coming back in, and you've got Carol Norman going straight up. They're hitting relatively the same area. Cheryl more like 7 there at the arrows, but it's the angle that they hit in the early part of the lane.
And a much better shot now on lane 14 for Carol Norman, who realizes if she doesn't get it going here pretty quick, she's going to be heading to Yuma, Arizona.
Well, it looks like Cheryl's real lined up now, so Carol needs to do something different here on lane 13. It wouldn't surprise me if we see her hit light.
Yeah, she's thrown it through the nose 3 consecutive shots, and obviously she's moving on every one, so let's see what she concocts here on lane 13. Looks like a little more speed, tries to hold pocket, and it does, and this one hooks all the way across the nose, and she is really confused at this point.
Like you said, a little more speed. Looks like she made the adjustment by speed control rather than actually maybe moving in a little bit more and trying to catch that oil in the heads at a deeper part of the lane.
You know, obviously, you can move left or move right or do something. It looks like she feels like she's making good shots, and she's doing the adjusting with speed, but boy, it hasn't worked, and now she's, oh my, thrown one right out the window, and she gets it back for the spares. So a break for Carol Norman, and she needed that one. Meanwhile, Cheryl's pondering that 22-pin lead. And across it goes. She leaves the 5, but she did strike on the previous shot in the 7th to give her the turkey and a 33-pin lead. And, of course, Cheryl Daniels in the driver's seat right now.
She is. Now, on the shot on lane 13, again, the lane really that looks like it's given both the players a little bit of trouble. Cheryl did go through the beak on that lane earlier in the game. It looks like if you set it a little short, don't get it projected down the lane a little longer. It hooks early on you.
And there she did. You could see it holding up on the 5. I think that's a good observation, Leila. You've got to accelerate and project on lane 13, and I think you have to do so in the right area because Carol's kind of going up and at him, and that ball's overreacting. Well, she's back on lane 14 now and needs a strike desperately. She trails by 31.
A nice hit there on lane 14 by Carol, the 6-pin just wrapping around the 10.
It's probably your best shot of the match, huh?
Just about, other than the one that she struck.
Of course, this is game number 1 coming up. Sharon Owen-Todd, an outstanding amateur player, just fresh from the collegiate ranks. Qualifying number 2, Lorrie Nichols, and the top seed this week, 21-year-old Leanne Barrette here in the Fair Lanes Denver Classic. That one better skid. Yep, had a feeling she'd miss there. Lost her concentration, and I guess when you're 30 down, going into the 8th and 9th and realizing you don't have a great shot, it's kind of hard to keep it.
It really is at that point. You pretty much know, hey, I think the match is over, and now you just want to take your check and really get off.
Best she could shoot would be 181, and I think she'd probably be thrilled at that point. Get this one way out to the right and almost leaves the washout. And lane 13 was certainly the difficult lane for her here this evening.
Definitely a mystery here for Carol. You knew she was going to send that one right. There's just no way a player will go 4 consecutive times and go through the beak on the same lane and then not make some type of adjustment. We know she was making those adjustments, those minor adjustments, and it was still hooking on her.
Her career television match play record will now even up at 16 wins and 16 losses. As Cheryl Daniels in a position to advance into game number 2, and you can almost see it. The great rush she made last night, shooting the big game to hold off Lisa Wagner by just 3 pins. She's really bowling with a lot of confidence.
She really is, and like I predicted when she made the show last time, I think once we saw Cheryl win, already she's made another show here in the same swing. So that confidence level is something that once you have it and you're out here bowling, a lot of things can't stop you. Look at Robin Romeo right now.
What a phenomenal year she is having. Romeo with 4 victories already this year, including the U.S. Open, trying to pick up the 2-8. And she does at the very last moment. So Cheryl Daniels will move on to bowl Sharon Owen-Todd. And I want to get your observations of Mrs. Todd when she comes out here. Really an outstanding player.
Very impressive here for her first tournament.
Come right out of the gate and make the television show on the Pro Tour. That's not easy to do.
No, it isn't. And then coming in and leading into the second round of match play.
That one a little high. Wiggles the 4.
Well, I know Carol Norman and Cheryl Daniels, along with the rest of the players, all wanted to make sure I let them know that they wanted everybody at home to know how much they missed them. We've been out here 8 weeks now, 1 more week left, and it's been a long run for us. It's the longest we've ever had, 6 being the longest prior to this, and it's tough.
Yeah, and of course, coming up in the fall on ESPN, 9 more LPBT events, and you're right, it's people, I think, sometimes don't realize how tough it is to contend with the travel and the different food and the different accommodations and of course, the different conditions and playing areas, and it's tough.
Right.
Cheryl Daniels out of Detroit, Michigan, a big Pistons fan, we might add. A little disgruntled after the Pistons lost game 1, but she said, we bounced back nicely against Chicago in game 2. Different ball there, and a strike on the left-hand lane, so it's a game of 201 for Cheryl Daniels, more than enough to defeat Carol Norman.
Well, Carol was voted 1982 Rookie of the Year. She's really had a very successful career. In 1987, she was the first woman to capture that $40,000 prize in the 1987 Seagram's U.S. Open. So Carol has had a successful career. I know she hasn't done as well as she would like to. She has 2 pro titles, and as we all would like, a lot more of them.
Very solid player fundamentally, and always seems to be in the finals, battling for the telecast. And she'll want to forget this one here this evening, but anytime you make it to the final 5, you've had a successful week. So Carol Norman is gone, and on to perform now Sharon Owen-Todd. You'll enjoy her coming up. Cheryl Daniels peeking up over the top of the graphics to see that she wins 201 to 147. Not what Carol Norman wanted, but she'll depart with $1,500 this week. Meanwhile, there were some other outstanding players that bowled very well here this week. Lisa Wagner misses by 3. She's the defending champ. Robin Romeo shot 300 in the position round to get to 7.
Amazing. I was at the other end of the building.
And you finished 12th, so you must have seen something. You weren't that far down.
I heard it.
There you go. Elaine Blumenberg finishing up 15th. A nice week for her as well. Cindy Coburn at 16, and very solid field this week. Had some amateurs that qualified in the top 24. As took an average of almost 200 to make the top 24 this week, but to get to the telecast, obviously a little more difficult there. Average for the TV show, 212.09. So a very good look at the 25 ladies that ended up at the pay window this week, a field of 63 starting, and here is a good look at the amateur, Sharon Owen-Todd, who is completing her practice play, and give me an assessment of her game, Leila.
Well, I tell you what, I'm just amazed at her confidence level and the ability that she has had to come out and just stay on top. I thought at any time now she's going to falter and we're going to see her just slide down the lift, but she was just up there the whole time.
Well, she looks a touch nervous at this point, but I would be, I can tell you that. So Cheryl Daniels will start on lane 13, the unlucky lane as it was for Carol Norman. Wasting any time, and she goes up and throws this one flush in the pocket.
In her last attempt on 13, she did go high, so she made the adjustment there, got back on it. And our first good look at Sharon Owen-Todd.
a 3-time All-America at Morehead State University, also a 3-time academic All-America. So not only an outstanding bowler, but a fine student as well. She managed to come up with a 4-year degree in business management and wants to stay in the bowling industry one way or another.
An amazing opening shot, I'd say. Just flush. You know what I like about her game is her level of concentration. Here we're going to get a good look at her physical game. She starts the ball very low, almost like Marshall Holman. 5-step approach. Doesn't use much of the approach, though. Look how low she is. Actually hits the line and then pulls the ball through. She definitely needs the area on the lane to the right.
Locked in and throw a double to start. Crosses over and nearly carries the Brooklyn. Shakes her head on the way back.
Actually, Sharon mentioned that, you know, she really didn't have too many role models when she was growing up as a kid because she never had a chance to watch the women on TV. However, the last 2 years she has been able to watch us, and she really admired Lisa Wagner and was trying to obviously accomplish what Lisa did, and already she's come close. Lisa in her very first tournament finished second, so we'll see how Sharon does there.
Slides the 6-pin over at the last moment. It was funny, I asked her, I said, was it difficult for you to bowl in this first professional event? She said, I bowled against Lisa Wagner, Cheryl Daniels, and also Robin Romeo in my first 3 matches, and I won all 3, so then I figured out, hey, I'm good enough to be here.
You bet. You come out and beat 3 players like that. That has to help your confidence. By the way, she beat me as well. So.
Well, she's going to have her hands full this evening with Miss Daniels because Cheryl really starting to focus here on the championship pair.
I think that's going to be a key here for Cheryl, too, is just really concentrate and stay in tune with her own game.
Cheryl averaging a fraction better than 214 this week throughout the event on the television pair, about 203. The minute you let up on lane 13, that ball just does a nosedive.
Actually, she looked like she had real good ball speed on that, too. However, it looks like she just raised up a little bit and the ball hooked just a hair too much. And a little reaction here is thank you for only leaving the 4-pin.
It's the sayonara wave there that you'll just take the 4, get out of there quickly with the spare, and you'll try and reload in the 5th. Fans watching Sharon Owen-Todd this week, and I don't really think they knew what to make of her. They kept waiting for her to fold and fold, and she shoots 250, 230 the last 2 games last night to lock herself right into the championship round.
Sharon, actually a very thin gal. She stands 5'6", throws 16-pound bowling ball. Got inside a little bit of her target there. I think she was trying to project the ball out. However, her ball held the line and went flush.
Got that interesting, almost that suitcase delivery, too, Leanne. Maybe we can take a look at that, and you can give us an idea of what you think, because I know when you worked with Freddie Borden, he got into that a little bit.
She has a broken wrist, and it amazes me how much roll she can get on the ball when her wrist is that broken. However, she does, and she gets good forward roll.
Spin it, goes Brooklyn again, and this time ends up with a 9 count rather than 8. She is struggling on the left-hand lane, and I think it's safe to say that 13 hooks more than 14.
Here we get a chance to look at her from the front. That 5-step approach. Once again, very low start. Almost can catch her wrist there. Straight leg at the line, though. Not much knee bend. I think she'll find in, as well as she's done here this week, I think in her career as a professional, she'll make some more changes in her game.
Well, obviously the Pro Tour condition much different than that in the collegiate ranks, so a spare up for Sharon Owen-Todd, who trails by 9, and it was a big week as well for Richard Wolf of Grand Lake, Colorado, because he won the Pro-Am. And looking for the double, and she strikes, so Cheryl Daniels taking advantage. And those back-to-back strikes to continue to put the pressure on the youngster from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Sharon actually has had quite a bit of collegiate experience with Moorhead. They won the National Collegiate Championship this year over Penn State. So she knows that feel of pressure.
And she was also voted the MVP of the event. And she liked this shot. Comes up a little light, though, and doesn't react perhaps like she had hoped. So she'll have her hands full here on lane 14.
Sharon's brother Kenneth got a hold of her in her sophomore year and changed her game quite a bit, and she said this really helped her and made her that much better of a player. Actually turned her into a player other than a thrower.
Well, her husband Steve is also a member of the Moorhead men's team, and they were married last August, and I have a feeling that the offspring will be bowlers, don't you think?
I think so, especially since she said she does want to continue. This is her husband, Steve, there. Does want to continue in the bowling industry, hopefully. Maybe own a bowling center someday.
She said they'd love to build one in Moorhead, Kentucky, which is a place that I have visited on more than one occasion doing basketball for the University of Akron in the Ohio Valley Conference. We used to call it Death Valley because it was awful hard to win down there, but some of the longest bus rides in the history of college basketball were from Moorhead back to Akron. Trying to bounce back. Oh, that one went right, and it came back, and oh, my goodness, the 10-pin finally falls. She nearly paid the price.
She nearly did. She threw that one way out to the right, knowing that lane 13 hooks a little bit. She gave it the room. Good move on her part. The 5-pin just blew in front of the 7, and the 10 didn't go till the last minute. Also switching balls for a spare conversion. Here we're going to get a good chance to look at her wrist position that we were talking about. See where her wrist is actually broken. However, she's in that, about 2 o'clock is where her thumb is going to be when she releases the ball. This is great for forward roll.
Instead of staying behind the ball so much, you're more in that suitcase delivery, just like you would be picking up a suitcase. That's almost the hand position. And, oh, my goodness. Trouble pops up on lane 14 for Cheryl Daniels.
A makeable spare with the back ends moving as much as they are. She can slide that 2-pin over to the 10, and I think Cheryl is probably going to go for it here.
Gives it a run and nearly bounces it back out. Tries to spank the 10 out. So an open now, though, for Cheryl Daniels, and gives new life to Sharon Owen-Todd.
Closes up the match quite a bit.
Just an 8-pin lead now, and she realizes that. Or does she at this point? I wonder if she really knows.
Well, we saw players like Renee Fleming win a tournament without ever realizing it. So some players don't ever look at the scoreboard, Denny.
Hey, you can't blame them. Better shot there, but leaves the solid 4, and especially your first trip on national television.
Well, not to ever experience this and just wonder what you're supposed to do out there. That's what Kathy McNaughton mentioned to me. She said, Leila, I was out there and I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to do. I mean, do you sit there and do you try to concentrate? Do you tell yourself to concentrate? Does it come naturally? Do you look at the score? Do you look at your opponent?
A lot of questions. Not many answers normally when you're sitting out there. So a spare up for Cheryl Daniels, who is leading at this point by 8. But boy, look at the money on top, especially Robin Romeo through 12 events this year. Back to live action, and trailing by 8 now in the 7th frame is Sharon Owen-Todd.
Actually letting up on her speed that time quite a bit, and the ball not holding the line, hooked through the nose.
I think probably the hardest thing in the world to do, and you probably can make this assessment, Leila, more accurately, is when you come out of a commercial break, it's almost impossible to keep the speed that you had before you left.
Well, your momentum is down, Denny. You've relaxed while you've waited or something. It is very difficult to do. Also, bowling on TV in general I've had trouble keeping my speed up.
I know there's that perception that you feel like you're throwing the ball pretty hard, and you really aren't, and this one skates right past the 3-pin, so a shake of the head and an open in the 7th frame spells disaster.
As you can see here, I think she actually knows it. It gets away from her. She falls off balance, and the ball just skates out, tries to make it back, but only makes it as far as the 6 and the 10.
212, the best score that she could post there. You see graphically, and that's, of course, if she strikes out from the 8th. More speed through the nose, and lane 13 is the hooking lane in the championship round here. I think whoever determines what to do with that lane and just stays out of trouble is going to end up winning the event.
I think also a key here, and we'll see it more in the next 2 matches, if the players off to the sideline are picking their opponent to finish on lane 13, they'll have a better opportunity to win the match.
Throughout the event, Leila, the left-hand lanes hook more than the right-hand lanes?
Denny, I didn't really notice that much inconsistency between the pairs.
Well, normally when the scores are pretty good, both lanes as you cross the house are fairly common in the way they react.
Well, lane 13 and 14 in match play, what the characteristic was that the pair actually broke down a little bit quicker, and it did hook a little earlier. So we did notice that this particular pair had those characteristics.
Stood up a little bit at the line, and that may be the worst break this week for Cheryl Daniels, who leaves the 7-8.
Stood up at the line, not getting the revolutions on the ball, the lift, the fingers in it, and the ball just skates on her. You need to get through the ball, and she just cut it short.
Gonna try to fit it in between, and she does.
Excellent spare conversion here. Not sure really what the ball's going to do. She gave it the room, and just at the last moment, that ball just goes right between them. Perfect.
Well, you love to see those 4-5s and 7-8s things like that. Except if you're Sharon Owen-Todd, that is. And with a strike here in the 9th, boy, Cheryl Daniels really puts herself in a great position to win her second match. Uh-oh, this one's going to go high across the top. It goes, and finally, so does the 9.
And another roll of the eyebrows or the eyes by Cheryl. This one, if you make a mistake, Denny, make it big enough. As it crosses all the way over, the 5-pin rolls around, the 9-pin's going to topple over to the front. And watch Cheryl here.
What's that old saying? Don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes, huh? Oh, she knew she got a big break there, especially in the 9th. Got to have a strike, or it's just about all over. Shakes him up, and Sharon Owen-Todd at least stays alive heading into the 10th.
A real good professional shot here, actually, trying to set it up in the 9th frame, putting any type of pressure she can on Cheryl Daniels. Just great revolution there. She's running it out.
And if we look ahead, if she strikes out, that would be a game of 2-0-2. We have a possible tie here in game number 2. More room on the left-hand lane, and she finally gets a strike on 13.
Well, I'm impressed. Key shot there, the first one in the 10th frame. Really pumped up for that one. Gave it the room, really hit it well, and just went flush.
And this one puts her in the 200 range if she strikes here.
Forcing Cheryl Daniels to at least mark.
Running it out the moment she let it go, and a gutsy performance for the All-American from Moorhead State.
Get a chance to see right where she's playing. She's a little deeper than Carol Norman was, right around where Cheryl Daniels is playing, 7 board. However, she plays the ball longer and a little more direct.
To go a little straighter with this one, punches it through and shoots 200 on the button, and that one might cost her dearly. Now, Cheryl Daniels, with a count of 19 in the 10th frame, can win 201 to 200.
And here's the difference in the last ball she threw. She was actually inside her target quite a bit, and the ball, at least 2 boards, and the ball hooked right through the nose.
right up and at it. Oh, my goodness. The 4.9 trips out, and that could have been the shot of the event for Cheryl Daniels, who played aggressively for the win and got a big break.
Actually, 2 big breaks there. A Brooklyn shot in the 9th frame that tripped the 4.9 to win the match.
Well, Cheryl Daniels will advance and take on Lorrie Nichols in the semifinal game. Leanne Barrette, the top seed, and for Sharon Owen-Todd, it was a remarkable performance coming from behind, but she's going to end up a little bit short here this week.
She has to be pleased with her finish. However, she knows she made good shots. The one in the 10th, even if she didn't get the fill ball there, you really never know. It looked like Lady Luck was sitting on Cheryl Daniels' shoulder.
Well, she went up and aggressively threw it in there. Everybody said she needed spare. The hardest thing in the world to do is get a spare right in the 10th frame, so she went up and threw her strike shot. Got a big break, so it's a 210 to 200 victory for Cheryl Daniels, who realizes that, boy, these college kids are tough to beat, but it doesn't get any easier because a WIBC Hall of Famer is next in line. And another notch on the gun, 210 to 200 for Cheryl Daniels, and for the week's work for Sharon Owen-Todd, a check of $1,750, and Cheryl will continue on now and bowl Lorrie Nichols in the semifinal game. But while we're on the subject of the pay window, oh my goodness, look at the numbers here. Robin Romeo with $79,145, and looks like she's in a pretty good position to set another all-time record.
Well, that's through 12 tournaments, or actually through 12 tournaments, and we have 14 events left. So her chances are pretty good, especially the way she's bowling.
If you look at last year, Lisa had only 5 left and had to really scamper to make it. But well, Robin Romeo, maybe she'll win $150,000 this year. Who knows?
It'd be great if every year that record got broken.
That's it. Game number 3, Cheryl Daniels. Still alive in this one. And opens with a perfect strike. You mentioned when she won in Clearwater, Leila, she won all 4 matches, so she's familiar with climbing up the stepladder.
She sure is, and once again, her confidence level has to be building as she's getting the breaks, and so many times we've seen it in the past. Those players that get the breaks early go all the way.
Lorrie Nichols never wastes much time when she gets up to bowl. This one right through the nose, and use the 3-6-10 to start.
Lorrie's really had some problems with her game lately, Denny. She's been hitting and missing here in the finals, and she's worked a little bit with Pat Mercantani out here on tour on her timing. She said she's given her a couple of ideas to think about, and it really helped her this week.
No question, a very uncharacteristic type year for Lorrie Nichols, who earlier this year was inducted into the WIBC Hall of Fame, kind of sidesteps the 3-6-10 out of the way and breathes a sigh of relief.
Well, actually, Lorrie is in the running for Bowler of the Decade here for the 1980s, along with Lisa Wagner and Alita Sill. So just goes to show you how great of a player she really is and how consistent and steady. She's always up there in the top.
Yeah, her 17th year on tour. This is her 52nd appearance in the championship round. That pretty much says it all right there. Lots of speed, going a little more direct, and an X marks the spot on lane 13. That's one way to stop it from hooking, just throw it harder.
Well, Lorrie's playing a bit deeper than the other players. She looks like she's opted to go to a softer shell bowling ball and move into the oil.
With carbon copy strikes in the first and the second.
Actually, the last 2 shots, much more aggressive, a lot better ball speed. Looked like she just executed so much better than in the last game.
Let me ask you this, too. On a tough championship round pair, how much of an advantage is it for Cheryl to have bowled 2 full games to make all those adjustments?
Well, I think it is an advantage for Cheryl, and she also knows now what she's been doing wrong and what she can do to correct them.
She probably also knows where her area is for mistake as well. Keeps the speed up on the left-hand lane, which is the key. And, boy, she's thrown 3 dandies to start the semifinal.
Well, I think also when you get up against a player like Lorrie Nichols, you know what she's capable of doing, and you have to stay tough and you have to stay aggressive. Now, she wasn't really sure. She may have let up a little bit against Sharon Todd, not sure of Sharon's capabilities, and actually just eased up. Lorrie going high last time on lane 14, gives it the room, and the ball just skated there.
She did a little handiwork on her bowling ball before she went up there, and I'm not sure if she was taking tape out or putting it in.
Lorrie not taking much time, 5-step approach. Another player with not a lot of knee bend, but good wrist position, gets through the ball, execution, and just so steady. She says this week just was really conducive to her game.
Well, she hooked that one early and paid the price for it. You could see she turned that one almost in the downswing, and so an open frame for Lorrie Nichols.
Something you really couldn't do this week either was turn the ball early. Here we had a chance to see right where her first ball went, right around the 9th board, and that ball's just skated by, not getting the lift with the fingers, and also hitting too much in that heavy conditioner.
Tries to come back on 13. That one whistles past the head pin as well, and Lorrie Nichols scratches the brow, and right now she's a bit befuddled.
And once again, right around that 9th board, as you can see, the other players playing out a little bit farther around the 5-6 board. Lorrie's in a little deeper.
Of course, Lorrie only averaged 191 here on the championship round pair, and she said, I had a hard time with it. I had to throw a double in the 10th to shoot 190. So right now she is struggling, but Robin Romeo and Lisa Wagner are neck and neck as far as the LPBT average lead is concerned. Cheryl Daniels in the enviable position of leading by 32 in the early stages in this one, and what an advantage that is.
You bet, especially with 3 perfect strikes. Getting that ball way out to the twig, as you might say, right around the 1st or 2nd board, and that ball just not making it back.
Again, coming out of the commercial, it's amazing how many times you watch players. It's a good thing for the viewers at home to watch when they come out of the breaks. What kind of a shot does the player make after that long wait? And if they hit the pocket and throw a good shot, you know they're pretty well lined up. A little hop, skip, and a jump at the free throw line, right?
Here we get a chance to see maybe just where that ball went. A little bit of different angle there. Well, it looked like she hit the 5 at the arrows, but the ball was definitely going out to the right. Got out to around the 2 board there before it tried to make it back.
Back up and at him, and an excellent shot on lane 13, so she's still locked in.
A lot more lift on that ball. You could really see the execution there.
And we have one of the younger bowling fans in the audience disagreeing with Mom somewhere along the way. Some screams in the background. Hopefully that'll quiet down, let the players concentrate on the business at hand. Lorrie trying to bounce back. How about some help? And there goes the 9 pin.
Well, Lorrie moved right on that shot and tried to play more direct, going right up to the pocket. You can see here, and the ball is just going to try to hold the line, and it pretty much did. Head pin hit the 4. The 4 falls and hits the 9. She knew she didn't like it, but I'll take it. Thank you.
All right, a double here cuts it to 19. This is crucial for Lorrie Nichols.
Good shot, too. Flat 10.
She didn't think so. She kind of waved it off. Either that or she didn't like the reaction.
I think she didn't like the reaction. She thought she threw a good shot, and then it just didn't finish.
Well, you've mentioned the fact that she has struggled this year. Look at that, 8 pins a game in average, and that's quite a bit at this level.
It really is. Lorrie really wanting to perform well tonight. It's her father's birthday, and she said, in 1972, I won the U.S. Open on my father's birthday, so that was a little confidence booster going into tonight. We always look for those little, I don't know, lucky charms or things to...
Sure, it's an edge, a mental edge. If you
think about.
Cheryl Daniels working on a strike. Would love to double up here and lead by 39.
Flat hit there by Cheryl.
That time she seemed to go with a little more loft that time out on the lane to perhaps delay the hook. I don't know. She's making some adjustments out there, little subtle ones.
saw her almost missed it to the left, so once again, she's making the adjustments even on the spare attempts.
Loves to write music and sing. I am told that she is an outstanding singer and has already produced a couple of her own music videos. One of these nights, if she wins a championship, we're going to have to take a look at one of those on the air.
We had a talent contest here a couple years back, and I was one of her backup singers. We were Black Beauty and the White Dots, believe it or not. As you can see, Cheryl had the lead, but she also enjoys weight training as well. Really into physical fitness. And that can really help your bowling game if you can strengthen the legs and your upper body.
Should have been Black Beauty and the Columbia White Dots, right?
But I work for AMF, so can't do that, right?
Probably not. A big smile from Cheryl Daniels, who is enjoying herself. And if you've enjoyed this one, of course, next week, the Hammer Western Open wraps up the LPBT season in the spring on ESPN. As that gentleman points up at the monitor, look, I'm on television.
You never know what these fans will do out here, do you?
No, we've had a great time out here. They enjoy the bowling, and I know that they've treated the professionals very nicely here. The Fair Lanes group, beautiful center here, only 3 years old, and lanes are in just beautiful condition. Lorrie hoping to like lane 14 a little better, and boy, that was a super shot in the 7th, and she needed it.
She really did. Now, if the flat 10 would have gone, she would have had a nice turkey there. However, she really needs to come on strong here in the last half of the game.
Trails by 28, could cut the lead to 18. She could shoot 228 if she takes it off the entire sheet.
Husband Terry at home, anticipating the game.
Oh, my, that's about as professional as you can get in the clutch just to try and stay alive in a championship appearance.
Just a great shot right here. Flush, as you can see how the ball just does the work, how the pins do the work, and this is her reaction. Whoa, yeah.
Tries to keep some pressure on Cheryl Daniels.
Cheryl bouncing back and answering with her own flush strike there.
Well, we're watching a player, I think, blossom here in 1989, a player that the tour has watched through the last 9 years and wonder, when is this going to happen? You've been out as long as Cheryl has, and you've commented on a number of occasions how much talent she does have.
I really think so, and right here, like you said, we are watching her blossom, because in the past, the pressure situation, she may have folded a little bit more, and right now she's just answering back with just great shots.
Comes back, hits the pocket on 13, but that'll make the finish very interesting here in the semifinal game, because she could shoot 226 with a spare and a strikeout, but Lorrie could force her to double if she takes it out in the 9th and the 10th, which is all Lorrie Nichols could ask for at this point.
Lorrie Nichols can shut Cheryl Daniels out. She can shoot 228. The best Cheryl Daniels can do is 226. I'll look at Cheryl Daniels' first shot here. See right around the 6th board at the arrows. Lorrie wanting this one for the turkey. Oh, really pulled that ball up.
Not a very good shot from Lorrie Nichols, who in the 7th and the 8th performed brilliantly. That one, she just kind of got lost on there. You can see she's talking to herself. She knows it was not what she wanted.
No, she really didn't give it to the room. The right actually pulled inside her target there and tried to force it up to the head pin. A 4-time WIBC All-American and a 9-time Bowler's Journal All-American. Really has struggled this year, and only made one other television show earlier in Canoga Park, the first event of the year. It's tough not being on television for that many of events and come back out and continually make good shots.
Well, if she strikes out and shoots 205, she would force at least a mark in the 10th for Cheryl Daniels, which is what she has to do at this point. Good speed on the shot. Lorrie
actually choosing to finish the match on lane 13. She must have liked lane 13 better, or she wanted to put the pressure on Cheryl Daniels to finish the match.
I think Lorrie, with the better speed, probably has a better shot on lane 13. She knows the ball's going to hook back, whereas I think 14's been the hard lane for her because it's a little tighter.
That's right.
Tries to finish strong. That one needs to hold pocket, and it doesn't. So Lorrie Nichols with a valiant effort here, but Cheryl Daniels gazes up at the scoreboard, kind of licks her lips, and realizes that she's in a good position now to move on to another title, perhaps. Lorrie upset with the effort in the 9th and the 10th. A game of 195, and Cheryl doesn't need much to clinch this one.
Really, she just needs to stay behind the line here.
That's a great feeling, huh? Well, she did that effectively and also got a piece of the pocket. Leaves the 2-8. So for Cheryl Daniels, a nonchalant win in the semifinal game, and Lorrie Nichols ponders about the moves that she made in the 9th and the 10th.
I know Lorrie, as well as myself, wanted to wish Judy Sutar good luck in the Hall of Fame National Doubles Tournament. She'll be competing in that tomorrow morning, which will be on ESPN later on.
So the handshake between Cheryl Daniels and Lorrie Nichols, and Cheryl Daniels has one more game. 3 games in the low 200s for Cheryl Daniels, but it's been more than enough to win as she ekes out a semifinal game victory over Lorrie Nichols, 203 to 195. So she's already beaten Carol Norman, Sharon Owen-Todd, and Lorrie Nichols. And as Leanne Barrette continues to throw the practice shots, coming up next on ESPN at the conclusion of the championship game, Sports Center with the Patrick boys. Bill and Dan Patrick with all of the scores in Major League Baseball. Sports Center coming up next on ESPN. All right, we've finished up now. We have just 2 players left in this one. Leanne Barrette opts to start the match on the left-hand lane.
Now, Leanne, I figure, has opted to start the match on lane 13. She evidently does like 14 better because she has also chosen to finish the match and put the pressure on herself. So
not what she wanted to offer in the opening frame. And when I talked to her just prior to the telecast when they were practicing Leila, she said, I may have wrapped my wrist a little too tightly and my thumb is kind of hanging up in the ball. I'm having problems. So we may look for that here in the championship game.
That's happened. It did happen to me a couple weeks ago. I was having some problems. When you wrap it too tight, your thumb swells, your finger swells, and then cause you to hang up in the ball.
Which is exactly what she's been doing. She hasn't been getting out of it clean, stands up on that one, sweeps the 3-6-10 out of the way.
Well, Leanne has what she refers to as a cyst. Her doctor says it's tendonitis, but it sits right on the back of her bowling hand, just above her wrist, so that's why she's even taping it. What a super shot by Cheryl, and if all the breaks have been going her way so far tonight, this one sure didn't.
An about face by the 7-pin. You saw the label turn around, so it was nicked by a pin, but the solid 7 left in the first. Terrible break in a championship game to open up and throw that good a shot and end up with 9 spare.
A pack 7, we always can handle those 10 pins, and sometimes you go, hey, an 8-pin, fine, but those 7s are tough to take.
Here's a good look at the matches here. 201, 210, and 203. It hasn't been fancy, but effective.
That's right. The object to beat your opponent, and this is just what she's done tonight.
Numbers pretty close indeed here in the championship game. Gets it out on the lane this time. The 4 and the 7-pin leave abruptly, and so it's a strike in the second for Cheryl Daniels.
Well, something that our laneman mentioned to me this week, Denny, was that the fact we were using the AVLS system, an automatic vacuum lane stripper, really helped in conditioning the lanes and keeping them relatively the same all week. It's actually a prototype out by Century right now.
Well, matching 3.69s for Leanne Barrette, who turns around and at this point in time appears to be having trouble on the championship pair.
The 3.610, once again, a difficult spare conversion, especially with somebody that likes to hook the ball. And we do know Leanne does cross some boards as you watch her throw it.
Pretty straight at the spares, and once again converts the 3.610, her 8th career television appearance, 4th here in 1989. She already has a victory this year, and one of the outstanding young prospects in women's professional bowling.
Well, she's only been on tour for 3 years, and in 1987 she was the Bowling Digest Rookie of the Year, and then in 1988 she was the Bowler's Journal and the WIBC All-American. So she really has had a successful 3 years.
Looks like she got out of that one a little cleaner. Oh, no. Up jumps the 7-10. The pocket split, and that's a miserable turn of events here in the third.
We almost saw Sharon Todd leave it earlier. And as you can see here, she's going to hit very light. Looked like she did get out of it very clean. A very good hit. And the 5-pin's just going to blow right next to the 7, and the 10 stays.
Tries her best to convert the 7-10, but... a disastrous open in the third gives Cheryl Daniels a 16-pin lead. She's on a strike. If she X's here on lane 14, she is really in a good position.
She's actually hit the pocket great on lane 14 last time as well. So Cheryl's looking very strong right now, going for her second title here in 1989 and her second career title.
That one she let up on goes Brooklyn, and not happy with that effort.
No, definitely raising up at the line, hitting inside her target, and letting up on her speed, I think, all at once. And when you make that many adjustments or that many mistakes all in one frame, it did cross all the way over, but she didn't carry that Brooklyn strike.
Well, she's never had much success in the championship round, but so far now in 1989, with her 3 victories tonight, she's now 7-1 in championship round play as she takes the 5-pin right off the 9.
Well, answering right back to Leanne Barrette. Not an easy spare when the back ends are moving. And right here, she tried to point it up to it, and the ball just chops 5-pin off, just clean as a whistle.
Better projection. Nice effort there. Boy, you can see how much she has grown. A bad break, chops the 5 off the 9, comes right back with a flush strike in the 4th.
Well, I think that's coming up, coming up through the evening, knowing her mistakes, knowing what she did and how she answered back to correct them.
Same thing. You can see it. She's obviously not getting the ball right of the target. And I don't know if she's trying to play him tighter. Obviously she is, huh?
Well, I crossed next to Leanne most of the event. Here we get a chance to look at her game. A very unusual approach. However, she's very low. 5-foot 10-inch frame. Look at that knee bend. And she's been trying to play more direct, but there she hit way inside around the 9th board. But she makes a good spare conversion.
I think when she is really at her best, and last night she was really thumping it, she loves to send it right and really rev the thing up. And she's obviously going with a shinier ball, trying to go more direct, but it hasn't worked. She's yet to strike here in the championship round appearance.
Well, in qualifying, she was going with the shinier ball as well, and she was actually going more direct than I've ever seen Leanne go, and she was playing right around the 5 board, and I think that's the key. She needs to get the ball out a little bit farther.
A little better there.
And that half hit. 6-pin just sits in the channel. Leanne, another player, starting at the age of 7 when she was 14, like Carol Norman, through her first 300 game. Came up through the junior ranks in Northern California.
Averaged 234 on this championship pair throughout the tournament. So right now she give anything for a game in that neighborhood as she barely brushes away the 10-pin.
She barely picked that one up.
Cheryl Daniels defeating one of her good friends, Alita Sill, for her championship down in Clearwater earlier this year. And Leanne realizing at this point in time, she's got to get something started.
Cheryl getting much more ball speed. Look at that execution. Actually almost pulled herself off balance because she was trying to get the power into the ball.
Little stick at the line that trip, but she really stayed down with that one. I think if there's one aspect of her game that I think it might be a little suspect, I don't know, is that shoulder, the wide open right shoulder. But when she's got it going, obviously she throws plenty of strikes.
Once again, a very strong and powerful player. Does a lot with her upper body and her legs.
Trying for 3 in a row, and she does so. Cheryl Daniels has this championship right by the throat. Now it's a question of whether or not she can hang on, or Leanne Barrette suddenly determine what she needs to do on the championship round pair. We had 3-pin fall down out of the rack on 14, so she'll re-rack and start again. Kind of hard to throw a strike without the 3-pin.
You bet.
You could do it, though, right?
I don't think so. Leanne's feet pointing off to the right. When she steps, she'll step into the left direction. Swing the ball out. Very, very unusual style, but very effective.
Well, she got this one a little further to the right, so she strikes. A big key shot for her in the 6. She's down by 25, but she still has some room if she can put some strikes together.
Still has 4 frames left. Very strong wrist Leanne has. Recently signing on with Ebonite, she feels that this has helped her in her confidence as well. You can see that ball being projected a little farther out around the first arrow that time.
To rise to the occasion, and that was a bullet on the left-hand lane, and she strikes simply overpowered lane 13.
Well, when all else fails, throw it harder. Is that right?
Yeah,
Lisa Wagner's motto.
She cuts it to 15, but Cheryl Daniels, if she continues to strike, will stay ahead. Cheryl Daniels in the 7th, or make that the 8th frame, and she's now on a 4-bagger. Nope, 7th frame.
Really into her own game again, concentrating, very strong. A little disturbance there in the background. We could hear it. If I was out there, I'm sure I would have heard it, but Cheryl just in tune right now. Can't hear anything.
It's her championship to win. She has bowled well enough from the start of this one tonight to grab the championship.
She really has, Denny, other than the 3rd frame where she went Brooklyn. She's nailed the pocket every shot. And with a 5-bagger here going into the 9th frame, she's looking very strong.
She could shoot 258. It's plenty enough to win.
The most Leanne could shoot would be 233, and she would have to go all the way.
Don't put it past this one to do it. Light hit. Oh, she needs a break and leaves the half-10.
Trying to go more direct that time. As you can see, her almost frozen roping it.
You know what I love about her is her ability to rise to the occasion. Obviously doesn't have a great shot out there, and after 4 frames was kind of fishing around, but all of a sudden she starts hitting the pocket, making the key shots, and that's something you really can't teach people. That's just intestinal fortitude, trying to figure out how to climb back into things.
Leanne wanted me to mention that she's in a mail collecting contest with Michelle Mullen out here. And so all those fans out there, you need to send in the mail to Leanne.
Is that M-A-I-L or M-A-L-E?
Oh, cute.
It's
M-A-I-L.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't sure. Right now, she's trying to collect any kind of a strike, and she does. Boy, you have to admire the way that she has charged back here. She does not have a great shot on the championship round pair, but she could still shoot .212.
However, Cheryl Daniels just well on her way, coming once again all the way from the first match.
Well, she's in a rut. Did it the last time in Clearwater. Close the door for the evening, and she does with that strike in the ninth. Boy, that's nice to know, huh?
You bet. Close out a match there in the ninth frame, 1 frame to go. Cheryl's probably just saying, hey, I can't believe it. I finally won a title just, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and here I've won my second. It took me 9 years to win the first one, and boom, here comes the second.
I think it just goes to show you how mental the game really is. Most professional sports are the same way, but all of a sudden she thinks, I can win this thing, and you go out and execute. You know, you've got a $20 million machine to operate. If you tell it to do the right things, it will, and with 2 more strikes, she'll shoot a brilliant .258 en route to collecting title number 2 here on the 89 season.
That's why you see, once again, so many sports players going to hypnotists and sports psychologists and listening to positive thinking tapes, because like you said, bowling, one of the sports that the key is mental. It's your mental attitude and that positive attitude that you can maintain.
Well, she'll become the second multiple winner here in 1989. Robin Romeo with 4 championships to her credit, but Cheryl Daniels will now have better than $25,000 in prize money here in 89, and with 14 tournaments left, she could be en route to just a tremendous year.
Well, also just, something for her own career goals, making possibly the Bowler's Journal All-American team or the WIBC All-American team. These are goals that we all set for ourselves, and after 9-10 years of not making them, and now she's got a great opportunity at it.
Well, she finishes with the last 8, and yes, 8 was enough here this evening in Denver. .258. And Leanne pats her on the back and says, hey, I did the best I could, but I ran into a buzzsaw.
258 is tough to beat, and
well, I'll tell you, you had great matches the whole 10 weeks, and everything was great. I couldn't play any better myself.
Just terrific matches, no question about it. The final just couldn't be beaten. I think one final thing.